Hello class, welcome to Pre-Algebra Lesson 3-7, which I am going to split up into 3 different parts, and today's part is all about adding and subtracting decimals and like fractions. So the overarching Lesson 3-7 is all about being able to demonstrate that you know what an additive inverse is and understand how to add and subtract rational numbers. Okay, so rational numbers is another way of saying basically fractions, okay? Fractions and then those decimals that come to an end. So we're going to do a little bit of a review first, and what I mean by that is we're going to just practice adding some decimals because for some of you it's been a while. So I'm going to start right up here in this green box. I have 106.25 plus 93.70. Quick reminder that when you're adding or subtracting decimals, when you're adding or subtracting decimals, you need to line up your decimal points, okay? So I'm just going to carry that right down now. And then, since I'm adding, I start all the way over in to the right. So I have 5 plus 0 is 5. 2 plus 7 is 9. 6 plus 3 is 9. Not 0 plus 9 is 9. And then 1 plus, there's nothing right here, so it gets treated like a 0. So it's 1. So my answer is 199.95. Okay, then if I move on to this next addition problem, it's not written out vertically. And usually I've noticed that students do better when it is written out vertically. So I'm just going to write 10.091 plus 15.982. All right. And then from there, I'm just going to add again like I did in the first one. I say 1 plus 2 is 3. 9 plus 8 is 17. So I write the 7 and I carry the 1. So then I have 1 plus 0 plus 9, which is 10. So I carry the 1. And I have 1 plus 0 plus 5, which is 6. And then 1 plus 1, which is 2. And I still have that decimal point. So my answer is 26.073. All right, so that's a quick refresher on how we add decimals. Let's remember how we subtract decimals. And for those of you that are wondering, yes, you are going to have to show your work on this. You're not going to get a calculator for this portion of the test. I want to make sure that you still remember how to add and subtract by hand. So if I look at this first problem, again, notice with the subtraction, my decimal is lined up. So I have a decimal right there. And now I'm going to say 5 minus 8. Well, since I can't actually do 5 minus 8, I have to do something which is called borrowing. So I'm going to go to the left of the 5. I'm going to look at that 2, and I'm going to take 1 away from that and turn that into 2. And I'm going to turn the 5 into a 15. So now I have 15 minus 8, which is 7. 1 minus 1, which is 0. 6 minus 5, which is 1. And 3 minus 1, which is 2. So my answer is 21.07. That's how I subtract my decimals. All right. Again, if you ever have something where your numbers are not lined up vertically, I kind of recommend you line them up vertically. Typically, you guys do better that way. So remember to line up the decimal point, not necessarily the number of digits you have. So I have 0.0925, and I have 20.128. Now here's the deal. I have a positive number here. Ooh, and I'm actually going to change colors so that way we have a different color for this problem. I'll just use red. Okay, so I have a smaller number minus a bigger number. So if you remember in the first half of chapter 3, we talked about when you have a smaller number minus a bigger number, your answer is going to be negative. And what you can do is actually take the bigger number and subtract the smaller number from it. So this one would look something like this, and I know my answer will be negative because I'm doing a small number minus a big number. So it equals a negative. Okay, and then if I look at this, I see that I have a 5 on the bottom but nothing above it, so I'm going to fill it in with a 0 as a placeholder. Okay, now I'm going to subtract. I can't do 0 minus 5, so I have to borrow just like I did on the last problem. So I'm going to turn the 8 into a 7, the 0 into a 10, so I have a 5. Now I have 7 minus 2, which is 5. 2 minus 9, I can't do that, so I turn the 1 into a 0 and the 2 into a 12. 12 minus 9 is 3. 0 minus 0 is 0. I bring down that decimal point. 0 minus 0 is 0. 2 minus, there's nothing here, so it's like a 0. 2 minus 0 is 2. So my answer is negative 20.0355. All right, now I want you to practice adding these two numbers together. Good luck. All right, for this problem, hopefully you lined up your decimal points and you ended up with 234.25. Okay, some of you maybe wrote it a slightly different way. Maybe you said with the addition, you still wrote it this way, in which case you get the same answer. We just typically put our bigger numbers on top with addition or subtraction, but I just wanted to let you guys know that you'd get the same answer. All right, moving on to example 2, let's practice adding fractions with common denominators. So, quick reminder, a common denominator, a denominator is the bottom of the fraction, the bottom number in a fraction. So if I look at this first example, my denominator is 15. If I look at the second example, my denominator is 24. Okay, and common means that they are the same. All right, so let's practice adding two fractions. So when you are adding fractions, you say 1, you take the top, which is called the numerator. So I say 1 plus 3 is 4. And then when you're adding fractions, the bottom number just stays the same. Okay, when you're adding and subtracting fractions, the bottom number stays the same. All right, so my answer would just be 4/15. Then, the next problem, I have negative 13/24 plus negative 5/24. So I'm going to pull on the previous knowledge from earlier in the chapter where a negative number plus a negative number equals a negative number. And since they're both negative, I get to just add these two numbers together. So 13 plus 5 is 18 over, and then I just carry my denominator because they're both 24. So some of you are going to be tempted to stop right here, but you want to keep going. And what I mean by that is I want to think, is there any number that I can pull out of 18 and 24? When I say pull out, I mean, is there a number that 18 is divisible by that 24 is also divisible by? So a little clue I like to give you guys is if they're both even numbers, okay, so if they end in 0, 2, 4, 6, 8, they are even. And so negative 18/24, those are both even numbers. That means they're both divisible by 2. So then, if I did that, I could say 18 divided by 2 is 9, and then 24 divided by 2 is 12. But guess what? You can keep going. And make sure you carry that negative. Now I look at these two numbers, 9 and 12, those are both divisible by 3. So 9 divided by 3 is 3, 4 divided by 3, or 12 divided by 3 is 4. So my answer is negative 3/4, and that can't be reduced anymore, so this one is my final answer. And that is called a simplified fraction. All right, now let's have you try adding these two fractions together and simplify your answer. Good luck. All right, for this problem, hopefully you got 4 plus 2 is 6, and then the bottom stays a 9. Then you said 6 over 9. Both those numbers are divisible by 3, so that becomes a 2 over 3, or 2/3. Okay, last example for me. Let's talk about subtracting. It works the same way as addition, except you subtract. So now I'm going to say 14 minus 2, which is 12, and this 21 just stays the same. So my answer is 12 over 21. Then the next one, if I look at this, I see my 17, that's going to stay. But I have 5 minus 10. 5 minus 10. That's a smaller number minus a bigger number. So that means that my answer is going to be negative. And then how far apart are 5 and 10? They are 5 apart. So my answer would be negative 5 over 17. Or you can put the negative in front of the fraction. Both of those are acceptable answers. Okay? Now here's the last question for you to solve on your own. Make sure when you're done subtracting that you check to see, can this be simplified? And if it can, make sure you simplify it. Good luck. Okay, for this problem, hopefully you ended up at negative 1 over 7. You said 18 minus 22 was a negative 4, and 4 and 28 are both divisible by 4. So that leaves you with 1/7. Okay? If you have any questions on that problem or anything else from this video, please don't hesitate to ask. I am so happy to help you. Have a great day.